share with you about visualizations, because I think in terms of data preparation using Python, you can go through the activity when you use your data camp. But if you have any concern about that, please let me know, because after this we have another I want you to do your own discussion, meaning that I want to give some time for all of you to gather, to form a team to do a discussion for your practical assignment. But before that, give me around 1 hour to discuss a little bit about visualizations. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so now you can see my screen. Can you see my
Yes.
screen? Okay, good. Because I don't know why today I cannot visualize the previous. Before this, I can still see all of you in my PC, but right now I just can see my screen. I mean my PowerPoint. But it's okay. So maybe we can discuss first. So give me maybe around 1 hour to have a discussion about data visualizations, because this is very important. We already do our data understandings and data preparation. We learn a little bit, and then we also go through some, example, doing data understanding with Pythons. And then today, I just want to discuss a little bit about data visualizations, because this is very important, especially when you want to communicate about your data, and also to do some storytelling about your data. Okay, so when we talk about data, normally we represent our data in the spreadsheet form. For example, we put into our Excel, right? So, or any other database. So there is a, row and columns. So that is how we represent the data. But when we talk about visualizations, in order to make the data give some meaning, more detailed meaning about the data, so it's good to have like a data visualization. So if you look at these two way of representing data, we can see that if you use your spreadsheet, yeah, you have all the information. But when you visualize your data using charts, you can see that it's more meaningful. It gives you some better understanding about the data. So this is what we are doing in data understanding, where we do our univariate analysis, multivariate analysis, okay, and then we also use like to see the correlation. So we just use graphical to represent the data in order to understand more about the data. But this part is very important, because based on this, we can do a visualization and we can explain our data to our stakeholder, for example, to our boss, to our manager, to our team, in order to make sure they really understand about that particular data. Okay, so when we talk about graphical representation, there is a principle of graphical excellence. Normally, we put into four category. It should be clarity, precision, efficiency, and maximize ideas. Okay, and minimize the ink, meaning that it's not necessary to use all different colors and then to use all the markers, but actually try to minimize the ink, but maximize the idea or the insightful information from the graphical representations. Okay, so a little bit history. So I don't want to explain detail about this. Maybe later, if you have sometimes, you can just go to here. I will share the link. This is about the some of the historical information about graphical representation. So meaning that we can see here starting from 1886, they also do some early graphical representation. Okay, it's a quite uh, meaning that complex, and this is actually the first one that have a kind of basic graphical representation. They have so many features here, but it's good, it's readable and understandable. So this is another historical pie charts detail. And then this is about the export and import with Germany. So they have all the data and the graphical representations. Okay. And there are so many different plotting back to the history of the visualizations. Okay, so get back to our note. So this is all about history. So you can see here, for example, sometimes one variable is enough to represent the informations. Okay, this is like a space. This is all the historical of the, and then unifying map with time series. So this map together with the time related. So this is being present last 18, meaning that 1812 to 1813. And this is also another interesting graph being present. And it's actually starting from this, it will have like an innovation how we can represent our data. So this is also interesting to see some of the information about seedling. So they give more info about the data. Okay, so that is about the history. So now when we look about data, so the element of plotting, we have a plot, meaning that whether we are using dot, circle, or we use like a square, and then we have our axis, y-axis and x-axis, and then we have the title. Okay, so this is like a scale and coordinates, and then this is like annotation. So all the plot is actually we need to put all these three elements to make sure that our plot become uh, readable and easy to understand. So this is the component, okay, or the element of a plot. Right, we have all the geometric objects, we have the scale, and then we have the annotations. Okay, so this is just about the aesthetic of the plot, meaning that like we put some of the shapes, different line width, right, different color. So this is what we call aesthetic of a plot. And then you can see here aesthetic map data to visualize representation. So we can put like a different shapes, we can put different colors, and then we can in terms of the positions. So this is the example. So you can have like a temperatures, and then you also can represent the temperatures in a month, and then you can use different color to represent different city. Okay, so from here you can come up with a kind of decision that shows that Death Valley have the high temperature compared to the other city. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. It gives you more meaningful information from the data. And then besides using graphical, meaning that line graph or bar graph, we also can represent using color map. So this is actually a kind of another aesthetic map data visualization. So we can visualize using color map. So there is a legend over here that mentioned that if the color is near to yellow, meaning that it's a high temperature, and then if the color near to purple, so it's a low temperature. Okay, so this is a kind of type of visualizations. So we have group bars, we have a kind of stack bar, okay? So whether you want to put it in the horizontal way or in the vertical way, and then we have stack bar. So this one is actually good for uh, when we have a nominal data or ordinal data, so meaning that it's not numeric data that we need to count, or maybe it's not numeric data, so we can use this bar graph to represent the number or the frequency of the data. And then when we use a stack bar graph, meaning that we want to do some comparison, so different color bring different group of data, so we can use this stack or group bar to show some differences between the data. Okay, so we can use bar graph horizontally or vertical, and then we also can use dot to represent our data. Okay, so this is bar plot. We used this before in our data understanding. And then, so you can see here, there is a bar plot horizontally. So what is wrong here? What is wrong with this data or these representations? Okay, so if you see here, we don't really, although it's look like nice representation, but you can see here the x-axis. So it's not really easy to see the value of the data. And then we have here more extra bar here without the numbers. So it's a kind of, make sure you draw the graph, or you try to generate the graph based on the is good scale in terms of the, don't just show any graph but without giving any better information from the graph. Same with here also, you can see that there is not really have some information on the, but this graph is better than the previous one. So here they just put accordingly, this one they do some sorting. So from this graph we can see which is actually the minimum number. Okay, for example, here Ferdinand is the minimum, and then we can see Star Wars is the maximum. So it still gives some meaningful information to the visualizations of the graph. So similar to here, okay, we can see that the graph, the informations of the highest value, we cannot predict the value here because it's not really clear. So the representations need to be use a better scalar in terms of the graph. Okay, similar to this graph also. All right, so we have this bar graph. All right, so you can see here sometimes there are too many bar graph, but we cannot, sorry, no, I cannot hide. Okay, so you can see here the bar graph. So sometimes you need to make sure that when you use any graphical representation, it gives more meaningful to the graph, not make it more complex and people cannot see the better picture about the graph. Okay, so sometimes instead of using bar graph, we can just use dot to represent the data. Okay, so this is a type of visualization. We have histogram, we have density, we have cumulative density, we have QQ plot. So this is actually good to represent some visualizations. Okay, for example, this is histogram. We draw this before. And then we also have like a multiple distributions when we have a different, want to compare with more than one variable, so we can use different multiple distribution to show one data. So this is one of the example box plot. If you still remember when I mentioned about box plot, when you draw your box plot, the dot data over here, we can represent it as a outliers, because box plot, the thick one in the middle, it should be the mean value. So you can see here, most of the data up here is actually far from the mean value. So we can assume this as a outliers. Okay, so this is another interesting when we talk about what's wrong here. If the bar represent two as standard deviation of the temperature, so actually the bar here represent the standard deviations, okay, of the temperature. But actually there is a better representations. Okay, this is how we show the errors. So we kind of like a error bar, or we can show like a standard deviations of the data. So we can use error bar, we can use 2D, we can use credit error bar. So this is another example. Okay, but they don't show all the data. So they just show some part, meaning that in this case they show the mean values, and then they just show the standard deviations. So this is another example to represent the data. Okay, so meaning that we show some distributions of the data. So when we use Python, sometimes to show the distribution, we can use a kind of this representation. Okay, so you can see here whether we are using box plots. Okay, and then this dot represent outliers. And then we can also use violin plot. So this is another interesting plot that we can implement, but it's just similar with this box plot. Okay, most similar, but here they show about depends on the represent of the graph or the shapes here. It will represent the standard deviations and also the mean value. So this is another interesting, whether it's good or not. So you can see here, plot the raw data, but be careful. This one is actually we just plot all the raw data, but sometimes not really give a good representation and meanings to the data. Okay, so whether you want to use like this or this one, so it will give you some, at least you can show something towards the data. Okay, this is another way of representing data. So some of the visualization is actually they a kind of distribution and the uncertainty of the data. So this is the relationship. If you remember, we do scattered plot, we do bubble chart, pair, scattered plot, or slope graph. So this is all represent the relationships of the data. And then we also can represent more data by using hex bin, correlogram, density contour. This is actually represented by when we have a lot of data. So you want to put into one representation. So this is the best tools or the best graph to represent. And then the easy way is actually using scattered plot. So you can see what are the relationship between chlorophyll and temperature, for example, in this case. And then we also can use others. For example, this is actually correlation based on the color map. Okay, so you can see here when we have near to this color, the value is actually positive correlations. And then near to this color is a negative correlations. And in the middle, meaning that there is no correlation between the element in the graph. Okay, so this is also interesting. Okay, especially when we talk about the correlation plots. Okay, so when we should the data be connected, so it depends. If you look like this, if the graph just use the point here, it's not really meaningful. Maybe you can put like a connecting line between the plot. So it gives some meaning, right? Compared to, for example, here we can see which one have the increasing values. Clearly, we can see the blue color have the increasing value, and the other two is actually almost not really have higher increasing. It's just like a normal data, no increasing between the value. So here it depends. You want to use here it's not really clear, but when you put the line, it's much clear. So this is how we use our visualizations. Okay, and then this is when we more detail, when we want to show more detail about the relationship. So we can use this kind of graph, confidence band, graded confidence. So this one you need to do some calculations lah to calculate the confidence. And then this is for Joe partial visualizations. Okay, we can also use the Joe partial and then together with the graph, add them in the same place lah, combine the data source and the maps. Okay, so coordinate system transform. Okay, so we have also coordinate system that can also be useful to represent the graph. Okay, polar coordinate also you can see here. Based on the temperature just now, we can use the this kind of graph to show some important findings from the data. And then instead of just putting the graph from the minimum number, we can put scale to 0. So it gives some meaningful findings. And then if you remember, we learned about transformations. So sometimes the graph is not really formed very nicely. So we can just use a log transform to normalize the graph. So it look like much better in terms of the representations. Okay. And then this is how the same graph here, right? Chlorophyll and temperature. But when we are using log transform, you can see the graph is a little bit different, but it gives more meaningful in terms of the graph. So it was scattered in the middle. So it's try to map a kind of normal distributions. So this is just adding a dimensions, okay, and colors, right? So remember that sometimes too many colors is not necessary. It depends to the graph whether it's enough to use only 4 colors or main colors and so on. So this is how we look in terms of the colors. Okay. So when we use colors, sometimes it gives more meaningful towards the data. All right. You can see the difference compared to we just use the same data just now, chlorophyll and temperature. But here they give a better information lah. When we talk about temperature here, they can show like a highest temperature give a red color. So it gives some meaningful. When we just look at the data, we know that this data is actually have the highest temperature compared to the other one. Okay. And then we use statistical to fit the data. For example, here the red color is a best fit linear. And then, yeah, we can also remember that to put like informations. So this is how we use our best fit. Make sure you put your title, your legend, and so on. Okay. So finally, when you talk about data, above all else, show the data. So make sure we minimize the data in ratio, meaning that maximize the information but minimize the ink. All right, okay. So erase non-data ink and erase redundant data ink. So meaning that sometimes when you plot the data, you make like a redundant representation. So sometimes it's not necessary. So just make it simple but meaningful. Okay. So I think that's all about visualizations of data. We already go through the visualization, but I just want to remind again, there are so many different graphical representation, but you need to choose wisely and make sure you know your right visualization or right graphical representation to represent your data, not just use any graphical representation to represent data, but make sure you use it correctly, and hopefully when you use the graph, it will increase the understanding about the data by the audience. Okay, so that's all about the data visualizations, meaning that the graph, how we can choose the graph, some explanation about the visualizations. Okay, so far, any question related to the visualization? Is it clear about the visualization? Any questions so far? No? Okay, can see some hands. Thank you. Yuan Chin, thank you. Jeffrey, Norizat. Okay, good. So I will share with you some of the books that can help you. For example, if you want to draw or if you have a data, so sometimes you don't know which one is the best representation, so you can refer to this book, because right now each of you, maybe you have your own set of data. Some of you maybe represent the statistical data, numeric data. Some of you maybe represent kind of uh, data that is not numeric. Sometimes data represent by a alphabet, by a nominal data. So how you can choose the best visualization. So I will share with you the books. So at least later when you come across that kind of data, you can just refer to the books, and then you know that which representations or which graphical representation that is suitable for your particular data. Okay, so if there is no other discussion, so I just want to share with you our ULearn. Hopefully you can see. Wait, I need to share again my screen. Okay. All right, so now you can see my screen. ULearn, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So again, so now we are in week 9 is about data preparations. Okay, so hopefully you already go through the notes. I think I record the lecture also. Later I will put here. And then today is actually in week 10. So we have like a activity. So it's nice to have an activity. So in week 10, actually, I just want you to have like a journey through a real data preparation and understanding. So you can see here what we are going to do is actually we want to have like a strategic assignment planning session. So I want you to do like a planning for your assignment. We have a practical assignment, right? So before I explain on this, I will show you the practical assignment, what you need to do in this practical assignment. Okay, so this is actually content 20% of your total carry marks. Okay, so this assignment is actually for specifically for phase 2 and phase 3, data understanding and data preparations. So the objective here is to explore, to clean and prepare a real world data set that contain dirty and messy data. So hopefully you try to find these conditions of data. So that's why when you have like a dirty and messy data, so you can do a lot of things in data prep and also data understanding, right? And then I want you to utilize Python programming, okay, to do this process. So in phase 2, you need to do, of course, there is a 4 tasks, right? First is actually select the data, select initial data. So choose a real world data set that exhibit data quality issue such as missing values, outliers, inconsistency, and inaccuracy. Try to find this kind of data and then clearly state the objective of your analysis. If you still remember, I mentioned that when you do your assignment 1 with Prof. Azhar, hopefully you already line up your objective. So you have some idea about what are you going to do for your project. So this take the same, hopefully the same case study. Okay, if you already submit your project for assignment for Prof. Azhar, maybe it's not it's not easy for you to relate. Maybe you can come up with a new one. But if you can continue the same case study, it's much better. So you just continue the next phase. The first phase is actually business understanding. Now we move to the data understanding and data preparation. So choose your data And then, as usual, if you still remember, we learn about data understanding in Python. So this is what you are doing here, lah, load and explore the data. Okay, use your EDA to do the data explorations, and then go for the data quality assessment, look for any issues in data quality, and then finally you have to document your findings lah. So write a report, okay, for that particular topic lah, especially for the first one is data understanding. Okay, next, so in your report, make sure you include the visualization, the statistical summary to support your observations. Okay, next, for the second part is actually data preparation. So based on the data that you already do on the phase 2, use the similar data, move to the next part. Okay, for example, you do a more detail in terms of data cleaning, and then if you need to use any features engineering, so you can use or you can implement any features engineering or data transformations, or if you deal with imbalanced data, how to deal with, if applicable. It's not really you need to find a data set that is imbalanced. And then document the process. Okay, and then make sure you validate the clean data, save the clean data in the format such as CSV or Excel. Okay, so the final output is actually I want to see the original data and then the data that you already do the process of data preparation. So we want to see both lah. That's why you need to save and put it to for future analysis. Actually, this one I want you to continue doing your next project, meaning that your final project, you need to do the modeling. So use the same data for your modeling. Okay, don't waste your time, meaning that you want to, every time you want to do the assignment, you want to use another new data, another new objective. Okay, so make sure you try to put it together and then come up with a better meaning that solutions lah for that particular data. So this is just a submission guideline. You can go through later. So the additional tips, make sure you put your data source acknowledgement. Okay, clearly mention the source. I'm suggest you to use GitHub. Okay, it's easy for you to control and track the changes. So if applicable, collaborate with the team to ensure consistency. So, and then finally you test. Okay, for example, you are using Python, right? So test your Python code on the smaller subset of data, okay, before applying in the entire data set. It depends. Sometimes you just have a small data, it's okay. But in this case, maybe you have more bigger data. So try to look for one small sample first. And then if the code is working for that small sample, so then you can implement for the larger sample. And then hopefully you put your reflections also. What is the challenges, okay, lesson learned, and so on. So here I also list to you some of open data, okay. So you can just go to the link and then you can see all of this open data. Maybe you want to use for your project or for your assignment. Okay.
But
So
if,
not,
Doctor,
yeah.
but if it was our project, most likely we cannot use the data online, right? It's not related. Like I was submitted a project talking about industry manufacturing. So the data should become from ourselves here. It's not really come from the open source. This will be okay, right?
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. This is just, give you some idea. But if you have your own data, much better.
Okay.
I'm really encouraged that you use your own data. But again, don't worry. We just, we don't really appear, meaning that share the information. We just put into our group. For example, when you want to present, then we can see your data. Because I know some of the company, we cannot see the data, right? We cannot discuss about the data. But for me, I encourage you to use your own data, much easier. At least it can help you in your daily activities also, right?
Okay.
Okay, sure. But for
Sure.
those who don't have their own data, so this is the place that you can choose your data, because all of these represent real data. It's not come from synthetic data or the data that is not collected based on the real scenario. Okay. All right. So this is the activity. Is it clear for the assignment, practical assignment? So we call it practical assignment because you need to use your Python code in order to answer all these questions. So meaning that it's a compulsory to use Python to represent the solutions.
So just one question. So
Mhm.
is individual or group?
This one is in group
Group.
two, maximum two, because in total we have 10 students, right? Altogether.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can do 2 by 2 lah.
Okay.
So at least easy for you
So
to
for
discuss.
the
Yeah.
for the Python, I can use my own like Anaconda, right?
Yeah, sure. You can use your Anaconda.
Okay.
No
Thank you.
problem. Okay, so today, my suggestions for our class today, because most of you here is working and then you have your own activity. So I hope that take the time for our class today. First of all, you can see here, there is an activity timeline. So activity 1, hopefully for this 30, I think less than around 20 minutes. So because we start at 8, so around 20 minutes, try to look at the assignment question just now, review it, and then you do your team formation. So try to find your team. Okay, so my suggestion, you just form a team of 2 individuals with diverse background to enhance the richness of idea and skill within each team. So you can work together with your team, try to go through the questions, and then look into what is your strength. So how you can, use your both of your strength to improve or to do the assignment. And then this is maybe take you around, I don't know, maybe around 10 to 15 minutes. It's up to you, or you need more time. So it depends. And then after that, try to do your brainstorming. So you have your own team, and then take this time also, do your brainstorming, meaning that initiate some, what is the topic, okay? For example, you want to find a data set, okay? And then what is the best data set to represent, what is the domain, for example. So this is the time that you try to propose an idea, okay, outlining the specific data challenge, okay, and then what is the methodology that you are going to use, right? So this is the right time to discuss. It's up to you if you want to take maybe less than 90 minutes. It depends. So this is just a suggestions. And then last, the third activity is actually, I'm happy to assist you. For example, if you already have your data at the beginning and then you know what are you going to do, you know the objective. So maybe you want to have some, clarification or the discussion with me. I'm happy to assist you on that part. Because I think when we do the small group discussion is much better. So I will try to assist you. I will try to answer any question related to your own case study. So I'm happy to do that. So maybe I give you half an hour, okay, to form your team and then to do some brainstorming, and then maybe you have some, draft idea. Then we can have a discussion to, meaning that to look into whether your idea is good or not, is acceptable for the practical assignment, is enough or not for in to do the assignment, or you need to add here and there. So I'm happy to do that. So why not? Maybe I give you around half an hour until maybe 9:15. So after that, I hope that there are some of the groups will try to reach me, and then maybe we can have like a small group discussions lah for each of the team members. So here we have altogether 10 students, right? So maybe hopefully I can have like a 10 minutes discussion with each of the groups in order to make sure you really understand the assignment, and then you can uh, further up lah for the solution later on. Is it okay?
So we will drop off now and join back this team.
Yeah, join back meaning that I will put in the WhatsApp group, for example, the time. So you can just put your name, team, and then your name. For example, we have altogether 5 teams, right? So team one, what is the name? So you just put your name lah later on. So we know that team one, who is team one, team two until 5. So I need the names lah. And then later, maybe we can schedule. So which team will want to meet with me first? So I will put the name first. And then later, maybe next team and then next team lah. If we don't have enough time, we can also reschedule on other time also. It depends. But our purpose for this project is actually for this uh, activity, just want to make sure that you try to go through the activity first. You try to, meaning that have the discussion with your team member and then try to understand the process or what are you going to do for your assignment. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So maybe I can give you, if you already have your topic, you can just see ask me early because I'm still in the teams. I'm happy to assist you anytime, starting from now. But maybe it takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes first to prepare. Or for those who need more time, yeah, you just take your own time lah to do the preparations. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So later in WhatsApp group, please list your team and then your name. So maybe I will put the team number and then later you include your name. All right?
Okay.
Hello，Jason，听到吗？Hello。
现在听到了。
哦，原来是那个 control 啊。OK，OK，sorry，sorry。有，等等
那我的 screen 啊。
啊，看到。之前是